Grip strength, and this one is a lot easier to measure. You can buy a dynamometer for $20 off of Amazon. And yeah, so grip strength is exactly what it is. It's how much strength defined by pounds per square inch. And most humans, adults, it's based off of gender. So less than 16 kilograms is women, less than 26 kilograms is men. That's defined as a weaker grip.
So if I squeeze it right now, I'm at 45 kilograms.
45 k, yes. You're double the norm of what would be considered weak, which is great. Now, ways you can measure this is track weekly, month, and you're going to start to see once you start working out, maybe taking care of yourself, we would want that to improve. We would want that grip strength to improve. Now, I actually took 5 incredibly large studies that showed how hand strength predicts all of these things in life, including all-cause mortality, longevity, everything that I could go for, why you would want to think of using hand grip strength if you're going to look for longevity and health and well-being over time. Now, the first was 10,000 people in this study, 10-year study. It showed that low grip strength had a significantly higher risk of both all-cause and premature mortality, meaning you have a higher prediction of dying earlier or dying much earlier due to a certain disease. And this just showed, again, what a simple measurement can predict. Now, it's not specific for certain diseases. It's not specific to actually show you how or why you might die, but it does predict your quality of life more than likely into aging years and possibly dying earlier in aging years because of less independence. You're not able to move as much. You're probably weaker, and that's a good predictor of that.
Yeah. And then it even makes sense because when I actually did a trial of grip strength on every single day for 2 weeks straight with workouts, and I can tell differences based on, it's almost like a recovery rate. If you notice like your baseline on an average of a week, 7 days straight of your grip strength, both hands, because each one can be a little different.
Yep.
You can start seeing if you're below that average that you want to probably calm and don't do too much workout-wise stress throughout your day. But I look at it as it's an ability to generate intensity throughout the nervous system. So the more you can generate through your grip strength, whether it's full body, upper body, arms, it just gives you a good understanding of more or less how you can control and then funnel that intensity with your stress through your everyday life.
I love that.
So it makes sense going back to the study of all-cause mortality. If someone doesn't have the ability to ramp up the nervous system, could you imagine where that funneling of the nervous system intensity is going to be diminished throughout the body?
Yep.
In addition to other stuff that's going on with each person. But
Yep, and that's a good point because not only that, the next study that I have, low hand grip strength was consistently associated with increased mortality but decline in cognitive function,
there we are.
reduced mobility and function decline. So just like Doc said, we're also seeing a correlation nervous system-wise, low cognitive function, reduced mobility and functional decline. No, I love that you brought that up. The next few, we found that low grip strength had a 1.89-fold higher risk of all-cause mortality. The next one, low hand grip strength correlated with an increased mortality across all age groups, especially in men.
Wow.
Highlight sex differences possibly with this one study. And lastly, men with higher midlife hand grip strength were significantly more likely to live to 100. This was a study done on Finnish men born between 1919 and 1934. This is a longitudinal cohort study. Again, if you had a higher grip strength later on in life, huge correlation to you living to 100, which blows my mind.
you know how people say you want to make sure you build up your quad strength? I'm sure it's going to be similar with grip strength as well.
It has to be.
And dexterity.
Dexterity and just like you said, the feedback nervous system wise when we're using our hands and when we're lifting heavy things and there's so much nervous system involvement to dexterity and those kinds of things too. So and maybe blood flow and all the other things that tie into it. So yeah, I'd be curious to see if there's any other types of more specific research that we can get to why grip strength is tied to these things. But so far, it makes a pretty pretty easy argument to why a $20 grip strength tester should be added to your regimen of ways to track how performance is. I like that you added in the recovery part of it to know how to use the numbers and how to track that over time. Maybe add it to your Whoop.
100%.
Be like, what was your grip strength today? Just type it in. That could be another great way to, there's a bunch of ways to do that.
And let's say you don't have a dynamometer. Go to a playground, hang on a pull a bar as long as you can each day for 7 days, and then average the time and try to go more or less than that. There's gonna be some like hypertrophy in terms of the strength gains from just your wrists, your hands, just due to that time frame, but it gives you a good understanding if you don't want to spend money on a dynamometer. That would be another way to go about it too. But
there you go. I love that. So next, Doc, this is one that I'm still learning more about, but I've heard a lot of people talk about it, and that's the carbon dioxide tolerance test. So do you want to talk a little bit about what that is and how that affects the body?
Beautiful. And some of this I'll take from Dr. Andy Gelbin, where we saw at the Parker seminar. We'll go through something small with that because I like how he explained a few things there. But pretty much CO2 or carbon dioxide and how it's excreted through the breath, that will determine a bunch of different factors, quite frankly. So it's pretty much the ability to manage and monitor carbon dioxide levels, which helps not only for performance and anxiety management. So more or less, let's start thinking about if you're going to breathe in and then expel out, you're going to be probably going through a high amount of exercise or stressful situations. Like naturally our body, when we're in a stressful situation, will automatically do a sigh reflex. And same with like dogs and pets when they're about to fall asleep. So as they're expelling the CO2, that either one puts them into a calm state if it prolongs or decreases their heart rate, but if they're trying to work out excessively, that we're going to be expelling a bunch of CO2 into the atmosphere. So how you can monitor that is a couple different ways, and some of this is to test the nervous system, and we use this in clinic quite often because I think it's important for a bunch of patients to have these tools. So you first start off, if you want to test this yourself, you start off by inhaling, exhaling. We do this 4 times. In, out, and then we end with in. And then just if you were to blow through a straw, you want to start a timer, and then you slowly start blowing out as long as you possibly can. Now the goal is to get anywhere from 30 seconds to a minute. Nice. If there's anything less than 30 seconds, it's either you're having poor recovery, it's affecting your sleep, or if, let's say you just did an exercise workout, that would be another thing in terms of you have to just increase the recovery rate on that side. But if you're able to exhale out longer than a minute, you're doing pretty darn good recovery-wise, and in terms of how you're able to regulate the breath, that is well monitored as well. There's different steps and ways that you can go about that in terms of double inhale, exhale breathing if you're stressed, or let's say you're consistently breathing out 1 minute long exhales. You either want to ramp up the nervous system, whether it's a workout, whether it's challenging yourself in something new, like a new activity, pushing yourself in terms of going to meet someone or doing something you just feel is uncomfortable. That'll move the parameters. If we go back to the same thing in terms of the bowling alley, in terms of the bumpers on the side, and get to the stressful state, it's on that same pathway. You want to push those barriers so you're pushing yourself, because the more you don't push yourself, it then gets narrower and narrower, thus less recovery as well. So it works very similarly to that. But yeah, no, that's one of the ways that you can go about it. There's also capnography, which also measures the end tidal CO2 levels, which can be done in a clinic setting. And there's a couple other ways that you can go about it too, but those would be a few of the reason whys that you want to start monitoring your CO2 levels. But Dr. Andy Gelbin, he brought up, I love this point, in terms of sleeping in a room that's closed off with no ventilation.
I just wanted you to touch on that for sure.
I love that. So he had us go into, you hold your breath as long as you possibly can, and then try to think about yourself. If you are in because that builds up the CO2 levels within your body. If you're in a closed room, if you have poor sleeping conditions, imagine trying to sleep in a room like that.
And well, yeah, I was just going to say with measuring things, and we'll get to this company in a little bit of how he measures it, but I didn't realize that it could play such an effect to how we sleep, our ability to be living in a higher CO2 involved room. And just like you talked about how we breathe expels CO2, it gets to a point though, that CO2 is going to accumulate in the room too. So yes, it's out of you. We expelled it, which is great.
Yes.
But if there's no airflow and for some reason it's 900 parts per million is the measurement that he explained. And if that room gets higher than 900 parts per million, it's directly correlated to poorer sleep quality.
Wow.
And that's something that I think most people should think about and get to a point of, if you've tried XYZ, these are the things that we've talked about on our sleep podcast: colder room, darker room, try to wind down before bed, and all the things, and we're still not getting the change. This is something I would recommend to look into as well. It's airflow and CO2, and these are just things I didn't even think about.
I would not have thought about
But
it either.
yeah, we're going to talk about how to measure that in a little bit here. And one of the companies that Dr. Galpin uses to, and not only to test that, but to test a sleep study itself. You can have one right in your home. But yeah, no, that was a fun segment that he
enjoyed
provided. And I'm definitely interested in measuring that myself.